Books of Blood, out on Hulu now, new horror film based loosely on a book anthology series written by Clive Barker back in the 1980s. The film takes its title from one of the first short stories called The Book of Blood. Why the film is titled Books of Blood and not The Book of Blood, I have no idea. I suspect it may have to do with the fact that it was originally planned as a TV series with an episodic structure that where each episode would tell a different story. But that was then reworked and folded into a single film, which ends up being sort of an anthology film. It has three different stories that in it that are seemingly independent of one another, but do end up intertwining in certain ways. The outlines of those stories are: one, a young girl with sound hypersensitivity escapes home to avoid being sent to a psychiatric institution because of some sort of trauma that she has. And she ends up staying at this older couple's house where weird things start happening to her. Two, a lady that specializes in debunking paranormal stuff meets a male medium that promises her contact with her dead son. And three, two criminals drive to an abandoned town to find a rare book which is supposed to make them a lot of money. Now, the structure of the film, with the different stories eventually coming together, is very reminiscent of another film called Ghost Stories, which was released back in 2017. And I have to say, that film was a lot better. From the individual stories to the way they were connected, it was just better thought out and executed in pretty much every way. Books of Blood feels much more derivative. There is nothing in these stories that we haven't already seen somewhere else, so there's not really any shock value. And the horror aspect doesn't really deliver either. For some reason, even moments which should be creepy or scary aren't. I think it maybe has to do with the overall direction, the fact that the filmmakers aren't using all the tools available or are using them inappropriately. I can tell you though that the end result is a movie that just makes you go, for about 2 hours. And to top it all off, the way that the three plots eventually converge and are tied together seems really tacked on and clunky. It's certainly not as well done as in Ghost Stories, not as elegant. It feels like something that the filmmakers figured out should be here, and so they added it at the last possible moment. The end verdict is unfortunately that Books of Blood is a derivative, unoriginal horror film that fails to scare or even unsettle its audience. It lacks originality, creativity, and flair, and I think it is a waste of time, even if you're a starved horror fan.